Hello, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, world powers say the Golan Heights belong to Syria. Egypt could be breaking the Camp David Accords. And a new discovery shows the Bible might be older than we thought. I'm Denise Wood here with the latest news in Israel. Israel is furious as reports emerge that the U.S., Russia, and other world powers are working on a Syrian settlement plan that says the entire Golan Heights belongs to Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is already making moves to change the wording of the plan, and he's reportedly talking to U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Russian President Vladimir Putin. For those who don't know the whole story of the Golan, Israel captured the western two-thirds of the Golan Heights during the Six Days War in 1967 and annexed it in 1981. During its first 2 decades as a state, Israel was frequently attacked from the Golan, and in recent years, it's worked to keep Iran from arming Hezbollah on the Syrian side of the border. In fact, Israel is admitting for the first time that it's carried out military missions inside of Syria. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel has hit dozens of Hezbollah arms convoys to prevent the terror organization from acquiring game-changing weapons.
פועלים כשאנחנו צריכים לפעול, כולל כאן, מעבר לגבול, בעשרות התקפות. The
Israeli leader's comments confirm foreign media reports of numerous Israeli Air Force strikes on Hezbollah convoys, carrying advanced weaponry from Syria toward the Lebanese border. Netanyahu has said Israel is acting to keep Hezbollah and Iran from launching missile attacks against Israel by setting up a base across the border in the Syrian Golan.
לא נסכים לאספקת נשק מתקדם לחיזבאללה מסוריה ללבנון. לא נסכים ליצירת חזית טרור שנייה בגולן.
Even though Israel is continuing to work against Iran and Hezbollah in the north, it could face significant opposition if the new Syrian resettlement plan progresses. The plan claims that all of the Golan Heights belongs to Syria, meaning terrorist groups in Syria could operate deep into territory that currently belongs to Israel. If the Golan Heights were returned, it would mean that Syrian territory would extend nearly to the Sea of Galilee. The terror group Hezbollah and the Islamic State's branch Shuhada al-Yarmouk currently operate on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights. Egypt has announced that it's giving 2 islands in the Straits of Tiran to Saudi Arabia, and it's definitely causing some concern in Israel. Egypt and Israel have a lot of history that involves the islands. In fact, Egypt's decision to use the Tiran Islands to block Israel's route to the Red Sea was one of the reasons for the Six-Day War. Now, Israeli experts are saying Egypt's latest decision is in violation of the 1979 Camp David Accords, when Israel agreed to withdraw from the Sinai and the 2 Tiran Islands. Israel was reportedly informed in advance of the agreement between Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and made it clear that it doesn't oppose the deal as long as Israeli ships are guaranteed freedom of navigation. Reports are saying that Egypt confirmed with the U.S. and Israel that the deal honors the Israeli ship lane, and the Saudi government is making a similar announcement. Israel's 1979 peace treaty with Egypt guarantees that Israel has full maritime passage rights in the Red Sea throughout the Straits of Tiran. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon are asking several experts to make a comprehensive impact assessment about the situation. The agreement between Egypt and Saudi Arabia was signed by the Saudi king during a visit this week in Cairo, and Egypt is definitely getting something out of the deal. Part of the agreement is that Egypt will receive a $15 billion investment fund to help it recover from its economic downturn. The Saudi king also says he intends to build a 16-kilometer-long bridge across the Straits of Tiran to connect the 2 countries. If you love bananas, you probably know how frustrating it is when they become too ripe in only a matter of days. Well, this might soon be a problem of the past. Israeli researchers have figured out how to keep bananas from aging, and you'll want to hear how. Bananas usually only stay fresh for a few days, making it difficult to transfer them and get them to customers before they start going bad. Well, Israeli scientists have found a way to slow down the process by genetically modifying the fruit. Researchers from Israel's Agricultural Research Organization say the modification can make a banana last at least twice as long.
You can see here that these are bananas that we change the expression of the gene, and which now the ripening is delayed. Well, in control fruits, the ripening still developing as fast and normally. You have to understand that these foods were picked more than a month ago.
This actually isn't totally new research. The Israeli scientists say they used existing research about tomatoes and then figured out how to isolate the specific gene that causes bananas to age and interrupt the process to make it take longer.
We actually, even though there are like 80 genes from the same family, we found the gene that can control the ripening, and we were able to show that it's really similar to what is happening in tomato. We can delay the ripening.
And for those who are wondering if modifying the aging gene makes bananas less healthy or even harmful to humans, the researchers already thought of that. Lab tests have already proved that modifying the banana's aging process doesn't impact their quality or taste. In fact, the researchers say their discovery could actually help solve food shortages in developing countries.
I think that this discovery would be very useful for developing countries, because in developing countries, for the local population, they do not have means of transportation in cold or storage in cold. Although the banana should not be stored in cold, but at 12 degrees it can be stored and it can last longer. But they don't have the facilities. So I think if development like this is a great idea for developing countries. It will just they will have food for a longer time.
While the world's population is only growing, the usable farm area is only getting smaller. This means farmers need to get even more produce from a smaller amount of land. But sometimes they don't know how to make that happen. It turns out one Israeli startup might have a solution. Taranis combines agriculture and tech by collecting data to give farmers exact information about their fields and any risks they could face, like weather issues or crop disease. Ophir Shlam is the founder and CEO of Taranis, and he's here to tell us more about how they're helping farmers succeed. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Denise, for having me.
So first of all, do you think farmers have the tools they need on their own to figure out if there's crop disease or weather problems that they could be facing?
So we at Taranis, we really believe that farmers know their crops the best and they know their farm area for many years. And we don't really want to change their behavior. We just want to give them better tools to suit their needs. And we identified that they are still not optimizing their crop yields. We saw that on the worldwide averages, 22% of the total production of crops is lost every year.
Wow.
And this is due to different diseases caused by fungus, by bacteria, by viruses, and because of pests and insects.
So the problem isn't really that there's not enough farmland, it's that we're losing crops in the farmland that they're already using.
Exactly. In the past 30 years, the farmland remained static, and we only managed to keep up with the demand by having better tractors and better machinery, better seeds. But this is a limited option to continue this enhancement.
Definitely.
The new tools need to come from a totally different technology. And we believe we're part of this bigger solution.
So on that note, what exactly are you doing to help farmers?
So basically, we're gathering big data from the field, from a large amount of areas. We cover millions of acres of land, and we identify anomalies as they begin, and identify it, and provide this insight to the farmers. So they can identify which problems emerge in their fields, treat it when it's still a very small problem, or even before it emerges, and this way to increase their overall yields and profitability.
Wow. So what are some examples of how your company has helped maybe a specific farmer or a group of farmers?
Right, so we're active today in a few geographies. We actually started in south of Russia and Brazil, apart from Israel. Today in Israel, most of the pear orchards, the growers use our system to identify a very substantial disease called fire blight. This is a crop disease that emerges in the spring when the pears start to blossom. And the bacteria can enter the tree and they actually ruin the entire orchard in one season.
Wow.
So it's millions of dollars worth of value here in Israel, and on a global scale, it's a huge problem in pears and apples. Today, the farmers in the past 2 months have been using our system every day to assess the risk factor and decide whether they need to spray or not. And this is instead of the usual practices until today, was to spray every 3 days, no matter what the symptoms are. That means they used a lot of chemicals
Sure.
that are not that good for the environment. It's costly for them, and they still had the disease happening. With our system, they can use less chemicals, increase their yields, and it's also all better for the environment.
Oh, so it's making a huge difference. How much do you expect to help the average farmer with their crops? How much will they save? Obviously, it's healthier because they're not using so many chemicals, but...
Yes, that's right. So as I said, the averages today is 22% of the total production. Of course, we don't intend to solve all this instantly. It takes time and a lot of modeling to do so. But we are going to start with the most important food crops, soybeans and wheat, corn, and also with cotton, which extend on millions of hectares worldwide. And we're going to help them in the next year to probably, our models are in validation right now, to increase about 5% in their yields.
Wow.
That means their profitability can even increase much higher because their margins are so small at this time. So even a 1% increase in their revenues can increase 5 or 10% in their profit. So this is a very important tool for farmers to secure their livelihood and to the world for food security relies on that.
Definitely. It sounds like it's making a huge difference. So obviously this is a really great idea and it's helping a lot of people. How did you come up with it?
So it's an interesting story. It's been in my head for quite a long time because I come from a family of farmers. They used to farm cotton and bananas here in Israel, in north of Israel on the Sea of Galilee,
Oh, wow.
in a kibbutz called Genosar. I was born there, and I saw all these challenges that they kept facing, the different pests that emerge, how they destroy the crops that they worked so hard to produce. But they didn't have any tools to help much back then.
Absolutely.
In my career, I actually worked in software development in the Israeli government, doing big data analytics, communication algorithms, and different aspects of software. And together with my colleagues, my co-founders in Taranis, mainly our CTO, Eli, who is a meteorologist in his experience, over 10 years of knowledge in different meteorology aspects. So this combination created Taranis, the micro-weather forecasting capabilities that actually can help us evaluate how crop diseases are going to develop in the field.
Well, fantastic. It sounds like you guys are doing fantastic work.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
If you're wondering what Jerusalem looked like 150 years ago, look no further. Some rare maps of the capital have just been auctioned off, and they show what the Holy City looked like in the 1800s. The 150-year-old maps of Jerusalem are from a British army official in the Ottoman Empire, and they happen to be the first topographic maps of the city. The historical maps were drawn by Captain Charles Wilson in an attempt to solve the sewage and sanitation problems in Jerusalem. Wilson was contracted by the Palestine Exploration Fund in 1864, and his research led to an advanced understanding of topography that helped improve Jerusalem's primitive sewage system. Wilson's maps also provide a peek into some of the holiest sites in the Israeli capital, and include the first cartographic images of Jerusalem's Old City, the Dome of the Rock, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. At the time, the maps were considered the first practical survey of the Holy City, because until that point, most maps were arranged and based on antiquated scripture. Now, they've been auctioned off for $3,500, and their new owner can cherish them as the basis for the modern understanding and recognition of Jerusalem. Israel is known as a high-tech nation and the land of the Bible, and now those two things are coming together in an amazing discovery. A new high-tech analysis of ancient shards suggests that the Bible is even older than what we thought. Researchers at Tel Aviv University have used sophisticated imaging tools and software to study handwriting that's inscribed on pottery shards from the First Temple period. The shards were found in the Negev desert, and they show military orders that were written 2,600 years ago by at least 6 different authors. So what does this have to do with the Bible? It turns out most scholars believe the first few books of the Bible were written during the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BC, which was after the destruction of the First Temple. The fact that the military orders were written by several authors shows that literacy was far more widespread during the First Temple period than what they originally thought. This means it's possible that the first books of the Bible were written much earlier than the Babylonian exile. And if you're asking yourself how the researchers knew the pottery shards contained writing by 6 different people, it's definitely an impressive story. The Tel Aviv team was made up of archaeologists, mathematicians, and physicists who came up with a complex algorithm to distinguish between different authors. Even though the discovery is groundbreaking, the researchers are careful to warn that it doesn't mean the Bible was definitely written during that time period. It just means it could have been, since more people would have been able to write down the accounts and a wider audience could have read it. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Today's word is martzeh, which means lecturer in Hebrew. There's nothing more motivating than a good lecturer or teacher. In Hebrew, martzeh generally refers to a lecturer in a university or an individual giving a speech to a big crowd. Of course, you don't have to go to university to get a good lecture. There are so many things to learn from the world and the people around us. And with enough experience, you can even become a martzeh yourself. Just think of the super popular TED Talks that feature everyday individuals who've accomplished great things and lets them lecture about it. After all, someone who's out changing the world is probably the best kind of martzeh. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The rainy weather has begun. Today and tomorrow are expected to have scattered thunderstorms with a high of 68 degrees. The rain should clear up by Thursday and the temperature should go up to 70. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.77 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iotv.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and see you tonight.